Ramcharan Associates National Insurance Consultants. We specialize in national insurance services, claims, compliance, contributions, and appeals. Contact us at 665-4387, 623-7952, or 657-9852. Or visit us so we can help with all your insurance needs.
Welcome viewers to this our fourth episode on the National Insurance Policy and where your rights are concerned as citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. Together with Ramcharan Associates, we embarked on this four-part series program with Mr. Maharaj. In Trinidad and Tobago, when an NIS claim is held back or delayed, it is usually because the board needs more time or more information for verification or for clarification before approving payment. Some common reasons might include missing documents, for example, medical certificates, unfinished, wrong birth certificates, employment records may not be on par, bank information, ID, marriage certificates, and so on. Let's welcome Mr. Maharaj, from Ramcharan Associates. Mr. Maharaj, welcome to Hotline. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Anne. It's a pleasure to be here once again to speak about national insurance claims, and today we are going to speak about short-term claim. And if we have the time, we will talk about employment injury claims.
Right. Which is a big issue, particularly for the younger generation who may not be aware of what their rights are.
That's correct.
They just know they have an NIS number. They may have contribution issues. They may not know. I am seeing more and more on social media, Mr. Maharaj, people are claiming that they are not getting their TD4 slips. It's becoming an issue, a wider issue. It is surfacing now that how many employers do not give out TD4 slips.
And that is true. And employers are getting away with it. The law states once you are employed at an employer, whether it's public service, the government, the state, or a private employer, you must get a payslip at the end of the week or the fortnight or the month. And at the end of the year, the next year that follows, the year that you work in, by the 31st of March, following the year that you work in, you must be in receipt of a TD4. If an employer fails to do that, he is contravening the law and will be charged.
Yeah, because how else would you determine if you have contribution issues? If your contribution record is not on par?
That's right. And these TD4s, payslips, are used by NIB, and the absence of them will determine whether you will get a long-term benefit or even a short-term benefit or even an employment injury benefit.
Or whether you may have a relative entitled to survivor's benefit. They have no way of knowing that.
Right. So that is more important than even the money you get at the end of your pay period. So keep these documents very, very safe.
Then there may be employers' discrepancies, or the amount of money paid, it also may not be yet posted to your account.
That's right. For example, Anne, let's say you work 52 weeks and you get a TD4 stating that you work 52 weeks and NIB only has 40 weeks on your against your NIS number. The TD4 is a legal document and can be used to download the rest of contribution to make up the difference between 52 weeks and 40 weeks. And by the way, the TD4 is a summary of all the salary that you work for during that year. It also states the amount of NIS was deducted. It also states the amount of health surcharge was deducted. And most of all, it states how many weeks you were employed at that particular employer.
Missing of TD4 slips could also lead to medical assessment delays for sickness and invalidity claim.
It is particularly used for long-term benefit, especially retirement benefit, because that's the period when insured realize, hey, contribution missing, where is contribution gone, and start digging up for evidence, only to realize that the evidence has been either thrown away, he never got it, or it's just not there to prove that he worked for that year or part of that year. And these are the things that NIB will use. If you do not have your TD4 and the employer has closed business, whether it's government or private enterprise, then you don't have a case.
Where do you wish to start on injury claims, or are you leaving that for later down in the program?
We will start on sickness benefit.
Sickness benefit, okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's get the ball rolling on the program. I'm
Now,
sure
sickness-
many
yeah.
listeners are waiting to hear what you have to say on sickness benefit.
Now, by law, every employee in Trinidad and Tobago, once they have employed for at least 1 year, they are entitled to 14 days sickness benefit. So after 14, I know this 14 days is supposed to be paid by an employer with full pay. If you continue to be ill, the employer has the right not to pay you. At that point in time, you are entitled to make a claim for sickness benefit. But there are conditions which you must contribute to in order to qualify for sickness benefit. And one of the criteria is that prior to the week you got ill, you must be employed for at least 10 weeks. So if you are employed for at least 10 weeks, then you are entitled to sickness benefit. If you was only sick for 4 days after, let's say you claimed for, you were sick for 14 days, you came back to work and then you got sick again after a few weeks, but the period was only 4 days, NIB will not entertain any period. Well, let's say the period was 3 days, sorry. NIB will not entertain 3-day and under claim. So your benefit, your period of illness that NIB will pay is 4 days and over.
So it is important, Sat, that claimants, they have to know when the illness began.
That's right. So to make it
And were
easy,
you employed when you became ill?
right. Now sometimes they are temporary workers, OJT, etc. People who will get odd jobs off and on, and they will start the job, and let's say the contract is for 3 months, and you got ill just at the last week of the 3 months. Of course, NIB will only pay up to when the contract is liable or at the end of the period of the contract, so to speak. If you continue to be ill, you will not be able to receive any money from NIB because of the contract, the termination of the contract. Okay? Mm-hmm. Now, you are entitled to, let's say you, as a permanent employee, with the government service or even with the private service, a private employer, and you are sick for more than 1 year, NIB will pay you to a maximum of 52 weeks. After that, if you continue to be ill, and let's say you are ill and you cannot work for the next year, there's a benefit called invalidity benefit, which you can claim for. Okay?
Then a doctor will have to certify that you're unable to work.
Of course, that is one of the criteria. So the forms that to be completed for a sickness benefit is the NI-15, which is the first 14 days. And if you continue to be ill, you use the NI-15A, not the NI-15. The doctor has a part to play in defining medical leave and what you're suffering from, etc. And of course, the employer has a part to play. His part will be extract of the payroll for the period you were ill and how much salary you will be getting. The employer will also have to state the salary that you receive for the 13 week prior to the week of incapacity. And if the criteria has been met, you will receive sickness benefit. Okay?
So for those viewers who have just joined us, remember after your time for your sickness benefit have expired, you can claim invalidity benefit. You will need to prove what medical condition prevents you from working, how long you have been unable to work, what treatment you are receiving, are you capable of performing any type of employment at all. All of this would have to be stated in your most recent medical reports. Is that correct, Sat?
That's right.
Yes.
So the time factor, let's move on to the time factor for sickness benefit. Your sickness benefit, as with all benefit, you must submit your claim on time. What is on time? You have 3 months from the first date of contingency to submit your claim. If you fail to submit your claim within 3 months, and you have a good reason, for example, you went for treatment away, or you was in the hospital, or you don't have anybody to take care of you, etc., to get a form filled out by the doctor is not in the country, whatever reason. Once you have a valid reason, you must state that reason in writing and submit the claim form together with a copy of your bank statement and the late claim letter, and submit the claim. You have until 12 months from the first date of contingency to submit the claim. But if after 12 months you fail to submit the claim, then it shall be disallowed. And even if you go to the appeals tribunal, the appeals tribunal would not be able to help you unless it's a reason that NIB did not look at, which is
From
very
your
rare.
experience, what might be some of the reasons they may not look at it?
Okay, they may look at let's say, with the ministries and state enterprises, and these people has permanent employment, they may be sick for 1 year, maybe 2 years, and they get the full pay. Upon approaching retirement, they will tell you, well, look, we have classified your leave after 5 years. In some cases, the minimum they take to classify your leave is, from my experience, is 3 years. So they will tell you after 3 years, you see those salaries, we paid you for that 1.5 year or 2 years, we want back our money. So at that point in time, the contingency arises, because you were getting your full salary and you were hoping that they would not ask back for it. But they asked back for it, and they would. At that point in time, you have 3 months from the first day, the date of that letter, which usually people get sometime a month after. So make sure you follow it up and you get that letter and you submit your claim, you complete your NI 15, complete your 15A, your late claim letter, the letter from the employer, and how you intend to pay back that money, etc., and you submit your claim to NIB. In that case, the claim must be allowed. Some of the reasons that claims are disallowed, of course, is 1018 test. It is submitted late. The doctor involved was not registered, or the medical was completed by a dentist. And those are some of the reasons, or your job become redundant after during the period of illness, or on the start date of the incapacity. Of course, you will only be paid if your job, let's say your job become redundant today, you'll only be paid from up to yesterday. Okay. So there are a number of reasons. Sometimes people go away and get medicals, and the medicals are not authenticated by the Consul General of Trinidad and Tobago, and they have to get all those things, and by the time they get it, it's too late. So
sometimes by the time they get all the documents, it is too late, and they have to live that, and they may be forced and go back out to work.
yeah, that's right. So in those cases, in fact, in all cases, don't you have a problem with NIS, come to us and we'll deal with it. And we know how we fast track every single thing.
Because there might be say Mr. X, they may claim an invalidity benefit.
Right.
And may have a medical condition that would prevent him or her from working.
Right.
And they cannot survive just sitting and waiting, and they may be forced maybe to work or do light duties in a grocery store also. And then that might prevent them from getting any NIS claims.
Yeah, once you are employed, once you submit a claim, you cannot work.
At all?
At all. So let's say you submit a claim for 10 weeks for sickness benefits, you cannot work. If any contributions comes in for you for, let's say, the second week of the sickness benefit, then you have to repay all that money from the second week straight on to the 10th week to NIB. Because you are fit to work. So you have to be careful, especially sickness and injury and invalidity, even maternity benefit, which you will come across just now.
Sickness, injury, and?
Sickness, injury, funeral grant, and maternity, and special maternity. So let's deal with the injury benefit.
Injury, yes. Before we go on the break, we have about 2 minutes before the break. Let's deal with the injury.
So the injury benefit is paid to anyone who suffered an injury on the job or attain a prescribed disease and cannot work. Once this happens, you report the accident, of course, to your employer. You go to the doctor, of course. There's a form to fill out, that's NI-19. You complete the form together with your bank statement, and your report on the accident is completed on the form itself. Sometimes if it's a major accident, NIB will ask for an accident report, and sometimes even a police report. So make sure you have all these things, all these reports ready. The doctor of course has to fill out a part saying how many days he gave you because of this injury. Sometimes the injury is major. And of course you have until 52 weeks to claim injury. You must submit your claim on time, and of course the injury benefit is not 3 months like sickness, it's 14 days. So you have a very limited time to complete. Sometimes the accident is a major accident, you in a nursing home or hospital, and you have no one to submit it. So they give you extra time, but after 1 year, you cannot submit your claim to NIB because it's considered late, and if it is submitted, it shall be disallowed based on the legislation of NIS, okay, which is Chapter 3201 of the laws of Trinidad and Tobago. So there's no
There's
No,
nothing that you all can do to rectify that.
okay.
It
So,
is part of the law.
yeah, it is part of the law. It's nothing that the appeals tribunal can do if you submit your claim late. So you must submit your claim on time. So as soon as you get your injury, if you cannot come to our office, send somebody. We will give the form. We will direct you. We will show you. We'll guide you with everything.
That's from Chariton Associates. Let's take a short commercial break, and when we come back, we will delve more into invalidity benefits and how you go about claiming this. We'll be right back.
Ram Charitan Associates National Insurance Consultants. We specialize in national insurance services, claims, compliance, contributions, and appeals. Contact us at 665-4387, 623-7952, or 657-9852. Or visit us so we can help with all your insurance needs.
Viewers and listeners, welcome back to Hotline with Anduki on ITV, where we are discussing the National Insurance Board, your benefits. This week we are discussing in particular sickness, injury, and invalidity benefits and claims. We're at a point where just before the break, we were talking about the employment injury benefit. When and where did the accident occur? You must be on par with this. Were you on duty at the time of the accident? Was the injury reported to your employer? Were there any witnesses? All of these are key things, factors that you must consider. Mr. Maharaj, welcome back.
Thank you, Al. So for injury benefit, and you have to get everything on par. Your documents, your reports, your medical certificates, your employer report, police report in cases of motor vehicle accident. Let's say you're a traveling officer and you get involved with a motor vehicle accident, even the police report. All your witnesses, etc., must be submitted to NIB. NIB will pay you up to 52 weeks, subject to the approval of NIB doctor. And after 52 weeks, you will go on. If you still continue to be ill and you cannot work, NIB would not pay after 52 weeks. However, there's a benefit called disablement benefit, which NIB will pay. The disablement benefit is linked to the percentage of disability. For example, if you are assessed at between 1 and 19%, you get a lump sum payment. If you are assessed by your doctor or specialist or by the hospital or nursing home, whichever doctor you choose, and the doctor assesses you at 20% or over, you will get a pension for life. The amount of money you get is linked to the salary at the date of injury. Okay? Or the date, at the week of injury, or the week prior to injury. So for example, if let's say you got injured on a Monday, and your salary was only $500, but the week before, you worked for $2,500. So they will use the $2,500 and pay you in that class. How much money they will pay you? People feel that they will pay you a full salary. That is not true. When you get injured, the NIB only insure 66% of the assumed average weekly earning, and for sickness benefit, they insure only up to 60% of your assumed average weekly earnings. And we discuss assumed average weekly earnings, which will classify your benefit. And this is also linked to your disability. Now, for the disablement grant, the NIB will pay you up to 365 weeks, which is approximately 7 years. So let's say you were assessed by a doctor for 17%. They will pay 17% of your assumed average weekly earnings, divide by 2, multiply by 365. So let's say the doctor could only give you for 1 year, they will just pay you for 1 year. The pension, however, which is permanent, they will pay you for life. However, from time to time, NIB will reassess you. They have their team of doctors which they send you to, and they will verify whatever your specialist or your doctor is seeing. The form for disablement benefit is NI 119. It's a form that is completed by you, your doctor, and your employer. And this is submitted together with all the medical reports, whatever reports you have to NIB, together with your bank statement, a copy of your ID, and they will process your claim. They may also require you to visit their doctor, which usually happens with disablement benefit. The other benefit, and in respect of employment injury benefit, is medical expenses. This is the only benefit that which NIB will pay for any expense related to an injury on the job. For sickness, no, you don't get medical expenses. For injury, yes. And what do NIB pay? They pay any traveling expenses, any doctor's visits, chiropractor visit. They pay for x-rays, for MRI, etc. They also pay for things like if you have to, let's say the facility that you need is not here in Trinidad, and your doctor says it's not here in Trinidad and you have to travel, they will pay you for the traveling expenses too. Okay? If you need a constant care and attention, and you need to employ somebody to see about you, they pay for that person too as well. And the maximum they will pay is 33,500 in total. They do not pay all the expenses. So we have to note that. So while the total expenses for you might be over 100,000, you will only get 33,500. Okay?
Well, it's better than nothing. It's better than you standing the expense by yourself.
That's right.
And I am sure there are thousands of people are not aware of this.
Yes, especially people in the police, Ministry of National Security, the police, the fire service.
Who get injured on the job.
Police get injured every day, by experience.
From your experience, what is the class of employees that get the most injury?
The class of employees that get the most injury are people like in the manufacturing industries, the people like in security, the people like even teachers. That teacher who parted that fight in Moruga and was beaten up by the students.
Yes.
You remember that?
Yeah, I remember that very well.
Good. That is employment injury.
That resulted in an injury benefit claim.
Right. Even with policemen who may have, let's say,
they may have to part gang warfare and so on.
Yeah, pull gun, etc. The trauma they have to go through. They may be shot on the job, and they have to go and do operation. They have to remain away from work for not months, maybe years.
They may have carpal tunnel syndrome.
Yeah, and they get the full pay from the state. But a lot of them feel that I'm getting my full pay. I don't need to claim NIS. And they will
have
go
a right to claim.
That's what you pay NIS for. So you get both sides. You get your salary and you get your NIS.
I hope many people in the police service, they are looking at this program and are enlightened by it, because I do see that they join and comment the police service network. So after this program, they will become aware.
A lot of policemen comes to me after 1 year, only to tell them
time has passed.
Time has passed, and the weekly benefit is
too little, too late, Sat.
The weekly benefit is 2092 and multiplied by 52 weeks. There's over $100,000 they lost.
And too
Because
late.
because of the fact they were not aware of the time limit.
Just reiterate the time limit for our viewers, for those who may
The
not.
time limit, you have 14 days to submit injury benefit with a external time of after the 14 days or up to 12 months with a good reason, not any reason. That the reason must be substantiated by documentary evidence. You cannot come to NIB and say, well, I wasn't feeling to make my claim and I only got the information recently. That may not hold water. It must be a good reason. So if you have any problems, you can come to us, Ramcharan and Associate, and we will help you all the way from A to Z and make sure you get every cent you deserve. Okay? For the disablement, you have 3 months from the first day of disability. For the medical expenses, of course, you have 3 months too. From the first day of your expense. So you may do an X-ray or MRI today, you have 3 months from today to claim. Of course, you have a maximum of up to 12 months. After 12 months, you cannot claim. And even if you claim, it shall be disallowed based on the legislation.
Some people might feel they have previously received NIS benefits and they may not want to claim. Once you have and can provide supporting documents such as medical certificates, pay slips, or employer statements, you have a right to claim.
I want to bring this up to your attention and to the public attention. There was a WASA employee who went in to fix a pipe that was over 7 feet in depth. While he was inside there, the hole collapsed and it did cover him up to his shoulder. WASA did pay him for the first, second, and maybe the third year. He only realized that he could have made a claim to injury benefit. Nobody in WASA informed him. None of his friends informed him. He didn't went for information. He didn't seek information. By the time he seek information after 3 years, of course, it's too late. He has a disability now, and his doctors is reluctant to give him a disability form completed. So he is not sure where he will go from here. His back is damaged, his spine is damaged, his both feet, are damaged, and he is very depressed and some suicidal tendencies. His wife has left him too. So a lot of things go with injury benefit, and one has to be very, very careful and should be on time with all your documents to make sure that you get your money. Of course, he has lost 1 year of benefit and he has lost his disability as time go by until such time his doctors complete his form, etc., etc.
Is there math in calculating this benefit?
Oh yes, there are calculation for each benefit. For example, sickness benefit, the NIB will look at your 10 highest salary. Of course, if you only have 10 salary, they look at all, they find an average, and there are 16 classes as we discussed in our first program, and they look at the average class and they will pay you your benefit based on that. For the injury benefit, the class for injury benefit, disablement, medical expenses is linked to the class which is the higher one between the week of injury and the week prior to injury. So if the week prior to injury you did not work, you would not have a class. And let's say you get injured on Monday morning, course you will fall in a lower class. Let's say you get back pay prior to the week of injury, and your class is class 5, but the back pay put you in class 16. Of course, you will get pay in class 16. So it all looks at the week prior to the injury and the week of the injury. Whichever one is higher, you get pay in that class. Okay?
Satwater, should an employer pay contributions during the period of time that you are receiving a sickness benefit?
That is a very important question. And the answer to that is, once you receive a benefit, NIB pays the contribution. Okay? So there is no, the employer do not, I repeat, do not have to pay a contribution. However, employers pay contribution and NIB pay contribution too. The contribution that NIB will, the NIB pay the contribution for you once you receive a benefit for sickness and for injury, as well as for invalidity. So there is no need for the employer to pay a contribution while you're receiving a benefit from NIB. A lot of these things happen with maternity, and then the employer pay contribution. And NIB, once they pay the benefit, they pay the contribution for you. So these benefits are paid twice, both by the employer and NIB. And only NIB is supposed to pay the contribution, not the employer. Okay?
If my benefit is disqualified, how can I appeal?
Well, let's say the injury benefit is disallowed. And the reason being is that you were not injured on the job. In some cases, I had one recently at the tribunal where the benefit was disallowed because NIB stated that he was not injured on the job. He was the person who is to handle, offload the truck. And he has prepared the truck for the daily routine. And his job will probably put in cold water, ice, etc. in the cooler and prepare, check the truck, tires, oil, etc. All the normal things that will be done. And NIB said that while he was preparing the drinks on the truck in the cooler, his foot slipped and he fell and he damaged his kneecap, his foot, his back, etc. He was home for quite a while. NIB disallowed the claim. We appealed the claim and it was allowed by the National Insurance Appeal Tribunal because we had witnesses who said that yes, that's his duty. The truck driver also witnessed the accident. The employer said yes, that's his duty. And NIB heard in this instance the claim was allowed. He got his injury benefit, he got his disablement benefit, and is back to work. And may I also mention, people feel that once you receive a disablement pension, the word pension kicks in and you are not allowed to work. That is not true. You could get a disablement pension of 20% and you could return back to work and get injured again. So I don't want the population to feel, well, I'm getting a pension and I want to go back to work, so I will choose between going back to work and the pension. You can get both of them, man.
So let's take a short commercial break, and when we come back, there are 5 important questions that sometimes are not fully addressed during the initial claims. We'll be right back.
Ramcharit and Associates National Insurance Consultants, We specialize in national insurance services, claims, compliance, contributions, and appeals. Contact us at 665-4387, 623-7952, or 657-9852, or visit us so we can help with all your insurance needs.
Welcome back to Hotline with Ann Dookie, viewers, with Mr. Sat Maharaj, expert in national insurance. There are five, I have put it as five, there are more than five, many details that are left out and are not reviewed. And this is the final part of our program. We will dedicate the last 10 minutes to Mr. Sat Maharaj to comment general on NIS. But some of the issues I would like him to comment on is this. There are some questions that viewers have texted me on. Was all medical evidence considered? That is a very important factor. Was specialist report, tests and so on, follow-up reviews recorded? How was the level of disability determined? What criteria or assessment was used to decide the percentage or the extent of incapacity? Was it work-related limitations properly evaluated? How does the injury benefit affect a person's ability to perform their usual job and duty? Was there any conflicting medical opinion considered? All of these are factors that both employer and employees face out there, Sat?
Yes, that's a lot, and we may need
that's a whole program by itself, I know, but we are winding down.
First of all, I want to separate invalidity from disability.
Yes.
A lot of persons confuse it. So let me just separate them. Invalidity is something that is more or less natural. You get a stroke, you get a heart attack, you get an accident out of the job, right? The complication of diabetes, amputation of limbs, toes, etc. Or, as I say, it is natural, right? And those illnesses that relate to what I just said are linked to invalidity benefit. However, disability is linked to injury on the job, or if you suffer a prescribed disease. For example, the same accident could happen on the job, and you may have a broken leg or damages, etc. And you are assessed, and you can link your claim to injury benefit. Some people decide they get an accident in the night and they want to link it to the job. NIB has a way of conducting the investigation to make sure that it did not happen on the job. So, of course, that is fraud, and there's a charge for that. We may do a program based on fraudulent activities that a lot of people do. But coming to your question again, one allows you to work with this disability after you have healed, etc., and is assessed, and one allow you not to. So if you are caught working while receiving benefit called invalidity benefit, you have to return back those funds that you get from the day you start working. For the disability, whether you work or not does not matter. Invalidity is linked to the average of all the contribution that you paid up to the time you became an invalid. So you may work for 20 years, and you may work for different classes, or maybe in the same class, but remember the classes keep changing, and we did look at the class of contribution for 26 and 27, and even from 1972. So the average is used to pay your invalidity benefit. There's nothing like a degree of disability in that. It might be used in medical report to determine whether you is a disabled person, an invalid person or not. However, the percentages used in disability, as I said before, between 1 and 19%, you will get a lump sum, which is called a disablement grant. And if you assess at 20%, all the way to 100%, you will get a pension for life or until the disability ceases. As time go by, let's say you get injured on the first day of the job, they will use the salary that they expect to pay you at the end of that week. And some persons, I know a guy, he got injured on the first day of the job, a truck. Well, he fell off the truck while offloading some bags, and the truck was moving, and he slipped off the truck and fell under the truck. The tires, of course, damaged both legs, and he received over $1 million from NIB from the age 18 to when he died. I think he died around age 52.
Wow.
So NIB did not even receive 1 cent. But they had to pay this guy who was insured.
It's all about knowing what your rights and what you are entitled to.
Yeah. So NIB lose quite a lot there. But on the other hand,
a very important thing as well, Sat, is was work-related limitations properly evaluated?
yes, that's where the OSHA comes into. So, example, you may be working in areas that is very conducive to injury benefit. There may be some areas like the manufacturing industry, in factories where people has to go through water log areas. Maybe the floor has
They work between water and electricity at the same time.
They get shocked. They died on the job. And that's a big benefit. We discussed that with one of our areas, I think with retirement on our second occasion, and that is a huge benefit where somebody died on the job. There was this accident in Heritage, I believe, where this guy was electrocuted and was burnt, and he has to be flown to Colombia for treatment. Of course, the government did all those things, and the wife got a handsome death benefit when he died. And because he was working for quite a tidy sum, the job was very dangerous, and he got electrocuted and burnt and eventually died after. So that is one area. Your right is once you see an area that is very dangerous, you can refuse doing the job based on the OSHA.
Another issue is, was any conflicting medical opinion considered? Different doctors might give different opinion.
Oh yes, that's a very that's a medical question.
That's a sensitive topic, I know.
Yeah. It comes up pretty often in tribunal, and one doctor will say, "Well, that 20% you submitted, we are not accepting that, and you only assess based on our doctors. Our doctors say you only assess at 5%." That will be a conflict, and that conflict, of course, will have to go to the National Insurance Appeal Tribunal. Of course, you have to appeal it. If you do not appeal it, it cannot go there. Once you appeal it, and you appeal it on time, it comes up for hearing. The Chief Medical Officer of Health will appear and give his or her opinion to the tribunal, who will determine whether it's 5 or it's 20. Most of the time, the chief medical officer, a well-learned person, will not be for the appellant or not for NIB. They will look at the facts and determine it. Majority of times, it is determined in the appellant favor.
The
Based on my
majority of
experience.
times at the appeal tribunal, they would be dealing with medical claims or injury claims.
That's right.
Right. In the last 10 minutes of our program, which have gone by so quickly, I hand it over to you, as I know you want to link with our viewers on the past 4 programs we have done.
Oh, yes, and a lot has been said in the last 4 programs. The first program, we dealt with contribution. We dealt with the increases for 2026 and 2027. By January 2027, the average employee in Trinidad and Tobago will be paid 46% more contribution than they were paying in 2025 in December. So there is a big increase. This will at least NIB expect to retrieve their losses for the last 8 to 10 years and get back the NIB system where they will be receiving more than what they pay out. The second program, we dealt with retirement, which is a very important topic in terms of the increase in the age from 2028 from 60 to 61, and as every 2 years, it would be increased by 1 year. By the year 2036, it will be 65 years. That being said, does not mean that you cannot retire at age 60, because a lot of unions and employers, usually the retirement age is 60 years. With the national security, it is even less than that. So people will have to start, if they want their full retirement at age 65 in 2036, they have to work. Or they can claim invalidity benefit if they are medically unfit to work. Okay? And once you have the contribution requirements and the medical requirements, which is you cannot work for at least 1 year, you can claim invalidity benefit. We look at the effects of increasing the age, who will benefit, etc. We look at the forms and the processes involved in submitting a retirement claim and invalidity benefit claim. Our third program, we dealt with appeals and the processes involved in dealing with an appeal. And I would like people, don't be ashamed or you don't know how to do this or how to do that. Come to us and we'll do everything for you. If your claim was disallowed by NIB, we will look at it. It was underpaid by NIB, we'll look at it. And we will advise you accordingly. If you have to do an appeal, we'll do an appeal. And our appeal are very, very successful. A lot of people goes and do the appeal and they have no one to contest the appeal. And even attorneys come to the tribunal and they do not know the laws, they do not know. Well, as attorney, they're supposed to know the laws, but they still appeal. And of course, the appeal is in NIB favor. People who do not have representation and they cannot submit their requested, most of the time have problems. And the tribunal, if they do not have the required facts and medical report and witnesses, etc., most of people who go on their own lose their appeal. And A lot of people do not know we exist. So now that we on TV, we on radio, we have internet, we have 3 offices, we have one in Port Spain, San Fernando, and Chaguanas. You can come to us, and we will help you with any situation pertaining to NIS. Okay? And in this program today, we dealt with sickness, we dealt with injury, we dealt a little bit with invalidity, and anybody have any problems with benefits. We have not covered all the benefits, but the most important ones we dealt with it. And you can call us, you can visit our office, and I will ensure that you get redress. If you want to have us do everything for you, we can do that from A to Z, as I said. You want us to submit a claim on your behalf, we can do that. You want us to pay the contribution on your behalf, we can do that. You want us to do an appeal, we can do that too as well. Okay? So
Mr. Maharaj, a very important question for hundreds of former employees of the Hindu Credit Union, I'm sure, I being one of them. If your NIS was not paid, is there anything you can do about that?
No.
Seeing that they are closed down, they went into receivership?
Yes. And Hindu Credit Union is an employer.
I have my payslip as proof that NIS was deducted.
And a lot of employees have similar views, not only about Hindu Credit Union, but other employers. Some have payslips, some do not have payslips. NIB do not recognize payslips if it's not stamped and signed. The average employer do not stamp and sign your payslip. It is computer generated and is given out to you. The TD4 is stamped and signed, however. So that has a little more power than a payslip.
A little more power.
Having said that, that don't mean the payslip is invalid and it can't be used.
But in a situation like that, if you're seeing your NIS was deducted and it's not recorded at the NIS, is there anything you can do about that?
Oh yes, we can do that. Of course, NIB will underpay you or not pay you, as the case may be, because if the contributions were not paid by a Hindu Credit Union or whichever employer, and the employer is no longer in existence, they cannot do any investigation. They cannot go by the employer and say, well, you didn't pay contribution on X, Y, and Z, and you need to pay the contribution now with penalty and interest. And at the end of the day, let's say the employer is no longer in operation. NIB will just pay based on what they have on their system, which is the physical contribution. So let's say you work with an employer for 10 years and they only pay for 2 years. So you're 8 years missing. And that 8 years will determine whether you get invalidity or you get retirement pension. So let's say you get a retirement grant. You can appeal that decision because at the end of the day, NIB supposed to police all the employers in Trinidad and Tobago. And if they've missed one, that is not your fault. Your job is to work. And that's it. The employer job is to deduct contribution remitted to the National Insurance Board. And if the National Insurance Board do not audit employers regularly, that's not your fault. Of course, when it reaches appeal tribunal, the appeal tribunal is very lenient. There's fear. They'll hear all the situation. Of course, you have to bring your TD4s and payslip to the tribunal. We'll do all that for you. And on the date of the hearing, we argue your case. NIB will stand their ground not to pay your retirement pension. And my argument is that you work for more than 14 and a half years and you deserve a retirement pension. However, you get a small amount of retirement grant of, let's say, $20,000 when you're supposed to get $3,000 a month minimum.
Well, it seems that the person's job is not only to work to this, that their job is to also keep track of their every payment. When in truth and reality, the National Insurance Board, they should ensure that these documents are sealed, signed, and that they are paid by the employers.
That's right. But NIB only audit and check and police 1 in every 6 employers annually. Some employers never get audited. So they could be breaking the law all the time and never, you don't even know, especially these contractors in Trinidad and Tobago. And you know what happened with these contractors?
Well, many of the contractors, yes, I know, they don't present a TD4 slip, they don't pay taxes.
Right, they pay you in cash. They pay you in cash, they don't pay no health surcharge, they pay no taxes, etc.
They use the excuse that you are freelancing. And even if you are freelancing, they have a right to pay your taxes.
So all these contracts that the government gives out, NIB is supposed to be policing it. Yes, there's a lot of contracts that are being given out, and these contracts are subcontracted, and subcontract these contracts. So you have a lot, some people think they're working with A, this time they're working with subcontractor C.
We have a subcontracting tribunal here. Sadly, out of time, so sorry to say that. Viewers, you can rewind the program or look back when it is being shown again. Society remember people too little too late. I remember Oscar Wilde saying, "A poor man died of hunger, yet there was food at his funeral." I am Ann Duki, host and producer of Hotline with Ann Duki. Thank you for joining us.
Ramcharan Associates National Insurance Consultants. We specialize in national insurance services, claims, compliance, contributions, and appeals. Contact us at 665-4387, 623-7952, or 657-9852, or visit us so we can help with all your insurance needs.